Good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lumière Learning Monday. Our very graceful guest today is Mrinalini Kher, ma'am, who is the founder, co-founder of Yuva Parivartan, a non-profit that works out of Mumbai, Kherwadi, that works in different parts of the country focused on skilling youth. And in fact, this year is going to be the centenary year of their parent organization, which Yuva Parivartan is a critical arm. Both Mrinalini ma'am and her husband uh, Kishore, they have been spearheading this initiative, and Milind and I have had the privilege of working with them. So thank you so much for coming to be our guest today and to tell us the journey, your story, and the story of your foundation. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So tell me a little bit on your journey to become an educator and then a social worker. So was it something that you were noticing that you had an interest in people and service growing up?
Thank you for inquiring about my childhood. It's a very privileged childhood in the sense that experiences were different types. Father being in the police, we traveled into small villages and towns in interior Maharashtra. And then my aunt and Atya means Bua and her husband were started into education. That is much before I was born. But through Pratana Samaj, my uncle ran about 10, 15 orphanages and about 5, 6 schools. Pratana Samaj being one of the most prominent ones at Girgaon. And then this was one influence. Uh, the other was them visiting us. I spending all my vacations. Where do I go for 2 months in summer? So it was always in Lonavala, where my aunt had a school and a hostel, beautiful location. And 2 months in those days, I'm talking of 60 years back, Lonavala was a real hill station, not like the concrete jungle it is today. And those were very fond memories. Then again, I was studying in Pune, there were floods and schools were closed for 2 months. Where do I go? Again, I went to Lonavala and stayed with my aunt in Gurukul and went to the local Marathi school. I didn't understand a word of Marathi then, and I didn't know what was happening, but I tried my best. And all these influences, my uh, aunt's husband, Mr. G.L. Chandavarkar, was very well known, and he wrote a lot of books, introduced me to all the classics in my language, not the real ones, but whether it was the Greek classics or the English classics and the Marathi santas. So every time he would come, he would bring me a book on Santa Eknath, Ani Vithoba, and so many others. And they were written in Marathi. So I got introduced to reading in Marathi and knowing these things. So that time it was not boring at all at that time because there were no other distractions, only playing with friends. But all those definitely looking back, and that looking back, that is the funny part. Whatever happens in childhood, you get, oh God, how today's children say, Mommy, don't start all your preaching. Mommy, please don't repeat that. You have said it 20 times. Those were not that way. In those days, that kind of language was not used with your parents. But those disciplines, those culture values that were passed on with compulsion, you start valuing them only after 60. When your own grandchildren, you're bringing up your children, they're still, you are young, so you are not that mature enough to understand what you learned. But as you grow up, at 60s and 70s, now in my 70s, I realize And when, all these interviews always ask me, what was your background, then I realize every time that, yes, those were important and how we hated them. My mother forcing me coming back from playing at 7 o'clock, before 7, be in the house, wash your feet, have a bath, change your clothes, say a prayer, and then do your homework. Oh God, how I fought with my mother, how I hated my mother against my father, my father. So these are the childhood thing. And then as you grow, you understand, you become a girl to a woman, and then veer towards your mother more. And I remember my father used to say, now you love your mother more and you don't like me anymore, and this kind of thing. And I reflect and I really amuse at my growing up. And all girls, boys go through the same phase, whether it is father and mother, or once it is mother and father. And the Oedipus complex does play a role. So for boys, it is the mother, and then comes the father later on. And for women, girls, it is just the opposite. So that's how your personality, your character grows with all the influences throughout your life. Whether it is leaving home, going to live in a hostel away from your parents, and how you howl and cry and make a scene because you don't want to leave this comfort and security of home. But those days when I used to cry in the hostel for days, for whatever, for 2 3 weeks, and then it's a different world, and then you forget it, and you are a whole additional influences come, and each influence and each experiences just enriches you. Not at that age, even when I was 18 19, I didn't think of all these fancy words, but today when you look back, yes, it is, my personality changed. In fact, leaving my mother's and father's security and home love, within 6 months I was a different person. From a shy, low confidence, couldn't utter a word in a crowd, to living in that hostel, traveling alone to school. And Bombay was like what people now will say New York. If you have to send your young girl to New York, she's facing the big wide world. Same thing it was for us living in Pune, Nasik. Bombay is the big bad world. So my father only carrot was, you might meet Devanand and Dilip Kumar walking on the road outside, you will meet Shashi Kapoor every day. That was my best enticement. Okay, I'm going to Bombay because I'm going to see my heroes. you know, these kind of, it was a nice, you think you're grateful for all these things that happened in your life. You hated them at that moment, but they are your true valuable experiences which enrich. And what I'm today is so everything combined. And then getting married into a family where Kishore was also of a different personality, 900 degrees separate, different, or whatever degrees you can say, opposites. But that added to another thing, because after a sheltered background where girls normally come from, this was a different world. And then getting exposed into social work, that's where my journey of social work began, because I was wanting to do something, but Kishore said, no, you're too young, and I was only 20, 21. You can't do social work. Bombay is a bad world, and the slums are the worst. You will be cheated. Don't get into it. And then it just happened that down the road from where I went for a walk in Kulaba was Spastics Society. So I started, can I offer my services? So 9 to 1, I did it for 5 years. And that's where the journey of empathy started. I never knew empathy. The word also was not existing there in my vocabulary. But that was one learning lesson of working with young girls. I always thought, because I was only 20, maybe 30, but I thought I was an old woman because having two children and married, while these young girls are 25 out of doing teaching and handling spastic student. It humbled me that these girls, they could have been anywhere else in the fashionable, whatever world of maybe hotels or airports or something else. And why have they chosen this line? It is a tough one. It would make me, I would come home and cry, I couldn't eat food. And that was for a month, and after that 5 years I enjoyed working in that same time. It was 85 to 90, and around 88 I started Kherwadi, working because I came in just as a uh, assistant to the president, uh, because they were celebrating that 100th centenary of BG Kher's. So they said, we need a young woman who will work with Professor Kamath. Then I joined there for that with uh, Kherwadi, spastic, family life, children very young, 4 and 5 years old, and that how you learn multitasking. You learn organizing yourself. Oh, and then the social world. By my that time, my husband had become a MD of a company and a American company. So the social life, cooking, doing my beard, everything was so tough, and children falling ill. But I tell you, those disciplines, I could have never achieved that. I was doing my B.Ed, working, at 7:38, you have to leave for college. And then you work there, come back at 5. There's so much homework. Two small children. That time my daughter was two and something like that, 3 years old. Then their issues, their illnesses, there are going to school, and my homework and parties and dinners, giving lunch dinners for office staff coming home. I don't know. At that time, we didn't even have a gas. I was doing it on that wick stove, cooking for 10 and 15 people and managing. So I wonder, कि एक शक्ति ये कहाँ से एनर्जी आती है, or you start growing so much you don't even realize it. You curse, you hate everything, but yet you do it, and that molds your character, your personality. It is no school, no MBA, no training, college, nothing can teach you that. So, when they say what they don't teach you at Harvard, this is what it is. This is what it is. It's the coping mechanism, which I keep telling. You can manage that work life and home work, whatever, that balance. That words were not there in that vocabulary that time. And but this is what it is. Coping mechanism होगा ना, तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं आते हैं जिंदगी में. Every problem is how to cross that. Now we talk about the that time. I remember the thing was speed breakers, bombs, all those things in your life. But now we don't. I remember, I mean, Kishore and I keep saying, why do you first tell the problems? Tell us the good things first, and then we will realize that the problems have already disappeared by the time you told us the uh, good things that are there. What is existing, you talk about the good existing thing, and say, अभी क्या problem है बताओ, तो बोलते हैं, हाँ अभी कुछ problem नहीं है, छोटे छोटे problems हैं. तो वो problem बहुत बड़े हो गए. So, that is how your perspective changes, your answers come on their own.
Yeah.
And I wish youngsters who have to face all this stress would know all this, because that stress is manageable. Stress is overwhelming, but it is ready, you can solve it. But there is nobody to guide you. You need right people at that time, when you're facing these issues. You need somebody to give you that little push, a little straightening, and what is this? Then no problem. Why are you doing this all rubbish? You're crying out. Don't cry. Come on, just do it. And then you do it with anger, but then you realize that the road has opened for you.
So,
So
who played that role of your being a mentor or being a push when you were going through this? How did you build that?
I never would like to give it credit, but it is Kishore. you know, Kishore also has had a difficult, I mean, not an easy childhood, and a lot of this thing challenges in life, and a self-made man in the sense his mother pushed him, but he went on his own. I mean, that time when he, like, he always says, "Who told me about IIM?" I said, I did my college. Bajaj was already there. All the IIMs were there, but we had never even heard of it. Only because I knew two women senior to me, girls who were coming from Bajaj. So I said, "What is Bajaj?" I didn't even bother about it. So he at in 65 knew there was a IM, and that is where his goal is to reach that place, because his life will be made after that. So that kind of thing is self, because you are seeking the right, you're looking for answers, you're looking for a direction in life, and you need a mentor. His mother played a role, and also self learning. He heard about IIM that was just coming up. It was not even constructed, but he read about it, and he read about Vikram Sarabhai, and he said, "That's my goal." So some things are self-made, some things are pushed, some things happen by serendipity. So many things play a role in your life, and as I told you, at you mature, your maturity starts at 40, and it keeps on growing. There's no full stop to maturity. It's a semicolon or a comma, always a pause,
Beautiful.
but never a full stop.
Amazing. So, when you and Kishore sir look back, what part of your Yuva Parivartan journey
Huh.
was most difficult? And today you look back saying, how did we accomplish this?
Yeah.
Can you share that?
Uh, you this happened. I mean, I joined in 88, and then I got pulled into Khirwadi because Professor Kamath was aging, and he said, "I need a young lady, and if you can start with twice a week, thrice a week." I used to come for half a day because children were important, and children used to come back from school. And I did it from staying in Kulaba to coming to Bandra East. I think that was my whole introduction to Mumbai, Bombay, coming by bus, train, walking, facing the 92 riots after Babri Masjid, then again another riots in 93 or 94. So we went through, and won't believe, I was such a darpo kind of scared woman, and I used to walk through Khirwadi, where Berampada was the center of the riots. And I used to walk, and my everybody said, "Are you gone crazy? Aren't you scared?" I said, "I didn't even think of it." I walked through Berampada because there was curfew, there were no rickshaws, no taxis, trains were running, and I would walk, and each of these things made me empathize towards the Islams. My connection with the people living at the bottom of the pyramid or living in the slums of Bombay, it's I don't feel scared of them. They're human beings like you and me. So that the people living in citadels, you start picturing them as something, demons and evil people. It's not like that. They also have growing through facing adversities of life. The tough life they. And the same time in 94, I think, I joined Seva Sadan. So that was another experience as a trustee. I was doing social work there. Everything was voluntary because we were comfortable with whatever earnings we had. And both Kishore and I came from a similar background. Now, if you like look at it, was a, of course, a bigger freedom fighter family. So they have faced their challenges, lack of money and all that. I never felt the insecurities of lack of money because I was not insensitive, but I never, I was protected by my parents and my family about not having money. And money stretched a long way there. Plus, our needs were sufficient. It's not
Yeah.
like today. You're tempted with a larger TV, with a better car, and better clothes, and this boutique and that. Those things were not there. Our life was much simpler. So I really feel bad for these today's young youth. India is young, and India is evolving, and these children are still evolving. The world is changing too fast for them, and they don't have the coping mechanism, so their distractions are much more. So you can't blame them कि वो इतना टीवी, उसको टीवी का एडिक्शन, व्हाट्सएप का एडिक्शन, सॉफ्ट पोर्न का एडिक्शन, ड्रग्स का एडिक्शन, दारू की एडिक्शन. If I don't know what we would have been, you have to think of yourself in their place, in their
Yeah.
conditions. Would we be like this? No, we would also have the same problems what girls face. And it is scary. So when this is how Yuva Parivartan or as a thing, because our attention went to school dropouts, hanging around your Khirwadi. क्या करते हो? No school. 8-year-old boy never has been even to a nursery school. Forget, education. So that is when we realize that got all the economic data saying that about 90% drop out of school. They never reach the 10th standard. Now government says it is come down to 65 and 64. All those things are there. But how many reach the 10th? How many drop out? I mean, forget, don't look at Bombay, look at the country. And when you look at the villages, I said, up, why didn't you study complete? He said, there was no school in my village. And the next school after fourth standard was in about 5-10 kilometers. No parent is going to send a girl 10 kilometers away, spending 20 rupees or whatever it is on the bus. So education stops for girls very early, or they don't even get educated. They never enter a school. So right to education, all these reforms are coming, but for the government, to reach that level in the village, I mean, you not seen those villages. There are padas that are, you have to cross 3 hills and valleys to go to a pada, and where there is an hamlet or a vada or a pada, whatever they call wadi, of maybe 10 families. You read about this only when the elections come and the voting machines travel with the election commission. इतने पेड़ चढ़ के वो गए और उधर वो वोट इलेक्शन के लिए, वोटिंग के लिए गए थे. So that time at least let the powers that be, or let the urban India realize, corporate India realize, the election commission with their voting machines crossed a river in a boat, then they walked and then they climbed somewhere, and then for 5 people's voting they went all that way. So that is the real India. That is the why we say Bharat. Bharat क्यों बोलते हो? वो भारत अलग है from India. That is how it is. And that is why school dropouts started as a small dream कि बस खेरवाड़ी में करेंगे. And then somebody said, why not Govandi? Why not Jogeshwari? Because my staff was coming from there. And then they said, why not go to Maharashtra? And the first company that really came to us was Tata Power. And they said, we have heard about you. Imagine no social media, no WhatsApp, no uh, even a mobile phone. And Patata Par came in, will you help us in Khapoli? And we said, why not? And we were ready to take risks,
Yeah.
ready to explore other areas and face the challenges. That was, I think, the most wonderful thing, I mean, great thing that we did. And we were going to Govandi, then we went to Nanded, then we went to Bangalore, went to Pune. And we didn't choose the comfortable areas. I remember going to Pune, very funny, went to the police commissioner. हमारी जरूरत कहाँ है, युवा परिवर्तन करना है तो you can't be doing it in nice comfy areas and zones. So he said, सब क्या बोलते हैं तड़ी पार किए हुए लोगों को, they all live in these two areas of Pune. So he said to start easy Tadiwala Road, which is next to Pune station. All the Tadi Par people were put there. And the other one was Yaroda. And these are families of those last maybe third, fourth generation. So we started there. Then we went to Delhi, and the real estate agent is showing us all fancy areas, ye wo. I said, नहीं नहीं नहीं, कहाँ चोर वाले लोग रहते हैं? So he said, एक ही जगह है, वो वहाँ बहुत पिक पॉकेट्स और सब चोर रहते हैं. So then we went to Jahangirpuri, and it was on the outskirts of Jahangirpuri, but then and from there we went into prisons. And where does Parivartan kahan jarurat hai? So we worked in Tihar and Yaroda and Arthur Road, Kalyan, amongst murderers and whatever, what not. And they're human beings, yeah, I know. And I remember going the first time to Arthur Road, and then मुझे बताया गया कि the superintendent, अरे आमच्या we have kasab, we have all the elite people in our anda cell and this cell and that cell. So I said, I don't want them. I want where I can be effective. So I remember eating Kasab's food because the superintendent said, Arey, I'm eating this every day. I have to see that it is not poison. So I'm eating it every day. Why do you keep it? So are you responsible for my something happens? He said, "No, madam." I said, I'm just joking. So we worked in the prisons for first time offenders, where young youth from 18 onwards are who are not juvenile, so they cannot go into the juvenile homes, but who are put into these notorious prisons along, but they're separated from the main prisons, but in the open time they're all in between. So I've spent hours chatting with the people, and that whatever little bit we can do. So everywhere, what after yesterday, I mean, the Calcutta incident, the Nirbhaya incident, the Abhaya incident, I realize counseling is a big must. A mental hygiene of youngsters who could go the wrong way is so, so important. And as we started life with skilling for livelihood. पर देखा कि that is not leading to livelihood. There are so many things you can't imagine. You are a raw person and brought, हाँ अभी आपका you have to earn money and start your career. So give him send him to a college and say now start working. It doesn't work like that. And what we find today, why are children dropping out of school, dropping out of 10th, dropping out of 12th, college, again dropping out of this thing, facing the suicidal tendencies? Why all this is happening? Nobody has guided them. They need mentors, they need guidance, they need somebody to care for them. And this is not at all done. Why is forget quota? Even IITs, it's facing the issue. So why not my school dropout? Earlier it was school dropout. Now nobody drops out of school because they are all forced to pass. up to the 10th and whatever. So school college dropouts now. They are college dropouts who find no value in education. Because education, I did my BA. What did it teach me? I was not even fit to earn maybe 100 rupees. I had to study further. You all have studied. You've done your MA. Your money, your parents will take you for something else. But these children don't have that kind of background. They are first generation. So you have to think your grandfather or great grandfather were first generation learners. What did they go through? They got somebody to mentor them. They came into the city. Somebody gave them food. Somebody gave them shelter. Somebody gave them their simple values and culture. These children are learn to fed for themselves. I've been to IITs. I've stayed over there for 3 days. You know, when you go for a seminar and workshop and all of those things. And everywhere there was this fancy block. I said, "Ye kya hai?" The children were with me, students who are taking care of me. Oh, ma'am, that is the what is that counseling block. So I said, "So why aren't you taking me there?" No, 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 madam. उधर नहीं जाने का. Means these are students of IIT doing first year and second year. And then they said, no, no. I said, do you all go? No, if we go there, there are cameras and somebody sees us and we'll be the butt of jokes. ये पागल है इसलिए काउंसलिंग के लिए जा रहा है. Now what can you expect? And I find when I chatted with them, they were following me everywhere, carrying your bag, and they're supposed to look after the guests. I realized they were clueless as to what they were doing there. They were compulsions of the family that आप engineer ही बनना है, आपको डॉक्टर ही बनना है, नहीं तो आप कुछ what है क्या useless हो. So those, these children were from very, very ordinary, simple families. Father is a salesman, a school teacher in a Jilla Parishad, but आपको engineer ही बनना है. So they're really lost. So at that level in a IIT, they are lost. So you can imagine my Yuva Parivartan stakeholders who are from the lower middle class and the other from the slums or whatever you. So this is how Yuva Parivartan is redesigning and designing and growing and capital all the time evolving. अभी ये नहीं चालू, अभी you have to add this, you have to add this. I said it will become a 1 year course. We don't want that because these children have no time. They have, for them, you cannot tell them to do a 1 year or 6 months course because the parents need their money, their contribution. So whether he is a roadside mechanic, yeah, he is delivering from on Swiggy, their parents need the money. So skilling is an afterthought. Skilling comes later on when he realizes कि मेरा BPO में पगार तो कभी बदलेगा ही नहीं. I'll be earning 10 or 20,000 all my life. Or in Swiggy, I'll be only delivering and there is no scope. I cannot aspire to earn 30,000. So that is where skilling comes as an afterthought. And that afterthought is where we come in. You continue your Swiggy, you continue your BPO or whatever else you're doing, but learn a skill like what graduates do. You learn, you go become a CA, but you're doing something else. You want to be IC, what is ICA and so many things. You have to keep doing courses even till you become a chairman or a MD or a owner of a bank. You are still
Yeah,
doing learning, isn't it? So same way,
absolutely.
same way, why can't these children these have to be encouraged to come all the time do something and enhance their skills?
So,
So
Mrinalini ma'am, talking to you, the whole story arc that you have brought forth for us touched upon some things which are so important, which is, a sense of discipline and structure, being
mm,
able to look at values, be able to imbibe them, have a sense of contentment, because
Yeah.
of the world that we live in, which is never going to satisfy us, and have mentors, people who can guide us at important points in time. Because what you say with so much empathy is, if we were growing up like these children were in the slums, we would be exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the fact that we are all human. We all have our struggles, and each one of us needs somebody at a point in time who can give us food,
Yes.
shelter, a loving guidance to put us on the right track, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. And we have cannot be stuck in a mold that we started 25, 26 years back. New things are happening. India is growing. Bharat mein, so much is happening. Infrastructure, roads, connectivities are increasing. And I remember Dr. Abdul Kalam, and when he inaugurated or launched Yuva Parivartan, had said, the only thing answer to progress is connectivity. Not, and he didn't mean communication like we think today. Connectivity is there an internet and ye Wi-Fi hai, no. He was talking of a simple road, and you were saying a road can change the life of a small village or a town. Same way, I mean, that whole connectivity is what is the broader meaning today. And progress is along the road, along that road. So, we are looking at where are the ports coming, where are the airports coming now, what are the plans of the all these departments of the government in central government, and then they're looking at the growth of Bharat through these channels. Now, if there are 200 airports coming up in interiors of India, imagine which was an unreachable point. I remember when they started a airline to Belgaum, and we were all excited. Now it is in about 10 airports along the Konkan coast, another 50 in interior, and same way across Madhya Pradesh. So if we go where the growths are happening, where the airports are happening, where the now the seaports are happening, you have a ready-made crowd of youth ready to be skilled for the local. You don't need to bring them to Bombay now anymore. That is the most exciting part. I can be in Malwa, I can be in क्या बोलते हैं संबलपुर या कहीं भी, because tomorrow maybe there'll be an airport at Sambalpur. So if my youth are trained there, they'll be ready. So for the growth of Sambalpur, because airport आएगा तो रास्ते आएंगे, hotels आएंगे, offices आएंगी, logistic parks बनेंगे. So, oh, I'm so excited about this. Telling
You
you,
know, I want my audience, I'm sure you're thinking what I'm thinking, that how many people do we meet, in a day that infuse us with so much positivity, a sense of can do, and a sense of energy. And each time I've had a privilege of sitting next to Mrinalini ma'am, or, when in on one of the bodies where we share responsibility. With the Bajaj Puraskar, where we are co-judges and co-facilitators, to the time where we have worked with Yuva Parivartan, or a friendly conversation or a phone call that you wish does not end just because you have to drop off at your destination, you put down the phone. I will tell you, and I will invite you to read about or go and listen to some of Mrinalini ma'am's talks, and you never stop inspiring us, ma'am. And we wish you and Kishore sir and everybody that's associated with Yuva Parivartan that may you infect all of us with this positive change to make a difference to our country and to the world. Thank you.
yes,
Thank you for this
thank you very,
wonderful, wonderful talk that you've given us. Really appreciate it.
thank you very much. You brought tears to my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.